Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order this meeting of July 17th. To order, please stand if you're able for a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So to start off the meeting, of course, I'm echoing again. Oh, roll call. Roll call. That's how we start off the meeting.
Kathleen Emerald.
Here.
Chris Oliver.
Here.
Elizabeth Coughlin. Shannon Jenkins.
Here.
John Nunes.
Yep.
Thank you. We start every meeting with public comment, so we welcome anyone who would like to speak on an agenda item to step up, state your name, and keep your comments brief. Seeing none, I think we can safely move on to the approval of minutes. I will call for a motion to approve the regular session minutes for June 5th.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll now take a motion to approve the executive session minutes for that same evening of June 5th.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just to remind you, probably motion passes.
Oh, yes, unanimously. Motion. Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
No problem.
So next on our agenda, we have, am I looking at the, yeah, okay. We have a consent agenda for Quinn PTO 2023-2024 Fun Run.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that?
I don't think so. It looks like Mr. Granfield's here in the audience. I don't know if he had anything to add to it or just here in case we had any questions. No?
Anybody have questions? I
I feel like we need to ask a question to make Mr. Granfield's time worth it.
How many years has this been going on now for?
Step on up.
We'll call you up, make it worth your while.
Thank you. We have Ms. Levesque here as well too, who's part of our parent teacher organization. If you had any other questions, this is actually the color run that we've done previously before COVID. We've done it 2 or 3 years in a row. They're trying to get that back up and running as early as October of this upcoming year. So they're just looking for approval to get moving because it's a huge time commitment for everybody involved.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to see it's coming back.
Yep.
Good time.
Great.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So did we?
We haven't voted yet, but
Okay.
we're good. I don't have any other questions.
No other.
Okay.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve.
I already did that.
We got a-
Okay.
I
we got a-
moved and he seconded.
we got a
so we
motion
just
and a
need to-
second.
We just need to vote.
Just need to vote.
Sorry.
It's all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously, thank you. And next, we have organization of the committee. And I first want to say Mr. Kiley is thankfully not here. He's taken some time off, well-deserved time
Rightfully so.
off.
Rightfully so.
So this is when we have to officially sort of appoint our new superintendent as secretary of the school committee. But of course, it's not without thanking Mr. Kiley, who's not here, but for just his graciousness, his leadership, his time and commitment, and in all the ways. I don't know if my fellow committee members wanted to also add to that.
No, it's not, thank you, Madam Chair. There's not much to add to what you did. He stepped in, did a fantastic job, kept the district together and, held it all and, while wearing multiple hats and such. And I'm not sure, I know he's on vacation and, I'm not sure if just for grins and giggles, he's got his laptop and he's watching this, but in all seriousness, a sincere thank you to Jim for what he did. So with Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I would agree, right? I hope he's not watching. I hope he's not here. I hope he's not reading emails, right? Otherwise, we have to teach him how to do vacation. But I am very grateful to all the work that he did during a difficult budget year, and also, having that additional load on top of that was a lot of work, and I appreciate it.
Great.
Yeah, I'll just send lots of accolades his way for all his work. Not only the budget, but I'll also put in there as well contract negotiations that were long and draining. So thrilled that he was able to move that along and essentially give a fresh plate to Dr. Saban McGuire for her incoming challenges, to take on some other things. So yeah, no, just a big thank you to Jim for all the work that he's done in stepping up.
Great. And so to make it official, I guess at this point I would accept a nomination to appoint Dr. June Saban McGuire as the secretary to
I'll
the
make
school
that
committee.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other additional discussion? I'm excited. We're excited to have
I'm
you.
excited. I have a few things to say.
Great, great. So do we just vote on that?
Yep,
All in favor?
Yep.
All we have to do.
Aye, I'm
Aye.
definitely in favor.
Unanimous, beyond unanimous.
Wonderful, thank you.
So I will turn it over to you.
So wonderful. I am incredibly excited to be here with you this evening in my role as your Dartmouth School Superintendent. I do have to say the last few weeks, and I even have to say few months, since I've been appointed, I've been incredibly fortunate to have an onboarding experience because the role was not open. Mr. Kiley was filling it well, but I had a chance to move into my office thanks to the technology department, set me up really well. So I started, I really would consider that I hit the ground running, but I also want to say from spring to the close of the school year, I was connected to Dartmouth email right away, part of a lot of the school groups, including the Quinn school, so I got to see a lot of the happenings that were going on really across the district at all of your schools, and what I considered to be the celebratory nature of the closing of schools here in Dartmouth. I got to visit the Special Olympics, and again, that's not just a community event, but it's certainly an area community event, and it was well attended. The students were so happy, excited to be part of that. Your staff was out there really working with your students, and it was just, you can tell, again, when I talk about the nature, the celebratory nature of what was happening here in the district. I also got to go to the Dartmouth graduation. As a spectator, wonderful. I have to say, when I heard it was in the gym, I was a little bit skeptical. But walking into the gymnasium that day, it was truly transformed, and it was, in fact, a truly spectacular, really, event for the students who we were honoring. So I want to take a minute to congratulate the Dartmouth students in the class of 2023, and we're certainly looking forward as a school district to hear about your successes. So there are a couple of staffing updates that I wanted to bring to your attention under teaching and learning. One is that we've hired very few individuals. There aren't a lot of openings here in the Dartmouth Public Schools, and you should be happy and proud about that because that means people want to stay. So you've hired an occupational therapist at the district level, an ELL teacher for the Potter School, a .2 physical therapist position that will be split between Potter and Cushman, and you've also hired a special education PALS teacher for Dartmouth Middle School. And so many of those folks that I'm talking about, or a few anyway, came right from within your own district, and I think that again, is telling about what the school district has to offer, that people want to return and work here. And so at the last meeting, there was mention of the summer academies and the summer programming. The summer programs are up and running, and in fact, as Ms. Paveo will come up and talk to you, and Mr. and Ross, I'm sorry, Ross, They're going to talk to you. I know your name, Ross. Yeah. So anyway, we were awarded a $126,000 grant, and this is going to allow us to run some programming in August that you're going to hear more about. But in addition, you have school year programs that are up and running. I was at the high school this morning. Lots of students coming in through the doors, again, looking happy to be here in the summer, walking through the doors of the high school, and your staff was welcoming. And it sounds to me like they are going to have a really successful summer program. But I am going to invite Katie and Ross to come up and give an overview of not only what's happening in the summer, but also they talked about the summer curriculum summit, or the end of the year curriculum summit that they had with many of the faculty members here.
Hello.
Happy summer.
Kick off? Sure. I'll talk first. We were asked to kind of provide an update on a couple of different things. The first one being our summer school programming. So at the high school level, we have credit recovery program going on where we're able to provide kind of a safety net for students who maybe did not do as well as they hoped they would have done during the school year, and to recover credit so they don't fall behind. We have 74 students currently in that program, enrolled in 128 different courses. We have 4 teachers and 1 coordinator, so it is a very lean staff, but they do a tremendous job of helping us to meet our students' academic needs, as I said, so that they don't become overage and undercredited. One other thing. Sure. Prior to that, we already also had an enrichment program. The robotics program was the last week of June, first week of July, and that served about 50 elementary, middle school students who came, learned a little bit about robotics, had some fun building the robotics themselves. And the nice thing about that program is that although we have Mr. Brodsky and Mr. Lauer who kind of oversee the program, it's really led by our high school robotics students. They really take the lead, they organize the camp, they do the teaching, and it's really a phenomenal experience, and we're proud of them.
So I will talk a little bit about our extended year program in the special education office. Our new director of student services is at a special ed conference today, so I am going to do my best to talk a little bit about that program, as well as the academic summer school program, which is we brought back this year for the first time since pre-COVID, recognizing the need for our kids to, really help prevent some of that summer slide. We have what was the number? 264 students participating in both our ESY and academic summer school program. They are a combination of 4-day and 5-day programs. Our kids who are in PALS and PASS are here for an additional day for a 5-day program. The rest of our Munchkins are here 4 days a week from 8:30 to 12:30. They are spread out all around the high school. If you look in the library, we have 2 kindergarten classes that meet in here. So if you look down in the alcove and around, you'll see some great kindergarten stuff happening. And then, as Dr. Saban McGuire alluded to, we wrote and on Friday found out that we were awarded a $126,000 Acceleration Academy grant. So we will be able to run an additional week of summer programming. And again, this is a DESE-funded program designed to really tackle learning loss from COVID again. So between now and then, we will work at targeting students, looking at student data to really target our students that we would like to invite. This program will have our rising kindergartners, so we'll have our brand new Dartmouth Public Schools kiddos invited to this, all the way through our 8th grade students and then our 10th grade students as well. So we have an early literacy academy for K1 and 2. And then we have a regular ELA academy for grades 3 through 8 and grade 10, and a math academy grades 3 through 8 and 10. And so we look forward to, we have 32 classrooms on that academy. It's a wonderful week. It's a quick week, but the kids get in and we focus a lot on hands-on learning, really getting in and doing some deep skill diving, and it's a nice sort of transition for some of our kids to start thinking about school again and get back, shake off some of that rust.
I do want to add that Katie is really, she was positive and drafted the job ad. We were ready to put it out, and that very day, the state came out and approved the grant for Dartmouth. So it was her
into the
positive
universe, and it
thinking
was
that brought the
outcome.
grant money our way.
So the other kind of exciting thing that we worked on was the week immediately, the first 2 days right after school got out, that Thursday and Friday.
A month ago already.
I know, which is crazy to think that it was already a month ago. We held a curriculum summit here at the high school. We had 65 teachers from all levels who really paused their summer vacation by 2 additional days to come and do some professional development around understanding by design, some curriculum professional development around really looking at essential questions and all the things that really make a good unit. And then I'll let Mr. Tebow talk about some of the, I'm going to put you right on the spot and talk about the shared drive and all the other great things.
Sure. So one of the initiatives we have that we planned for in our first year was to kind of move away from Rubicon Atlas, which is a very expensive repository for our curriculum. It's not all that user-friendly. Katie and I attended a Atlas workshop last fall, and there was probably 20 schools, and every school district was in the same place where they had invested, funds in using this tool, but the tool never really, made good on the promise, I guess. So with shared Google Drive, we can do a lot of the same things, but at a much more cost-effective, in a much more cost-effective way. And so with Mr. Galashaw's help, we're in the middle of transitioning from Atlas Rubicon over to shared Google Drives, and really we're able to kick that work off in earnest at the Curriculum Summit. So.
Wow.
And I think Kate was telling me earlier that we had a number of people apply for the Summer Acceleration
Yes.
Program. So we're
Yes.
excited about the response.
Very much so.
That's wonderful. Dr. Jenkins?
So I just have a question, right? I like order and logic and consistency. So K through 8, 10. What's going on with 9 there?
So
I'm sure there's some reason. I'm just curious, and we might have some parents of, students going into 9th grade wondering about that. So could you explain that?
It really has to do with the way that the state has created the grant. It's really around targeting many of the MCAS grades. I mean, it's not exclusively to that, obviously, with K through 3 involved, but that's the primary reason.
Yeah, I think the K-2, there's a huge focus at the state level on early literacy and early literacy skills. And the data that's coming out of the pandemic is around literacy and our kids coming in behind in literacy. And I think that's the sort of emphasis around the K-2. And, unfortunately, what Ross said is right. The parameters of the grant are 3 to 8 and 10. It's not lost on us that those are the years we do MCAS. And so I would imagine that is somewhat of the criteria and motivation around the grant.
And the other reason too, just in case, I know Katie mentioned students that we'd be inviting, and the reason for that is, again, the state has emphasized really targeting students who we know were most impacted by the effects of the pandemic, and we are limited to 10% of a grade level. So it's designed for a limited number of students.
So it's completely understood. It just seems like a weird design for the state. Like, why not include 9th graders? Because then they've got 2 years to
Right.
prepare for the MCAS. But what do I know?
And why
you
not?
know,
State works in mysterious
it
ways.
sure does. Yes.
I mean, the grant was posted very late too for the
Right,
summer,
so-
so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
And then when is the program running? In about 3 weeks?
So, yep, we're going to wrap up summer school on Friday, August 4th, and then we will start the academy on Monday, the 7th, and hope we can just keep the momentum going. And then also get out of the high school so the custodians can clean up.
Before we reopen.
Yeah, wow. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
That was great.
Thanks.
Oh, this is
Thank you for the
fantastic.
update.
Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie and Ross. Speaking of Katie and Ross, additionally, I just want to mention under Teaching and Learning in August, we are going to be facilitating a 2-day retreat with our Dartmouth leaders. And a lot of the focus on that, although it's under Teaching and Learning, it is going to really be focused on building climate and culture throughout the leadership team. And so that's what I'd like to update you on next. In the past few weeks, I've had an opportunity to work with our central office leadership team to begin to build upon and strengthen the relationships amongst us, because we're the ones who are going to be modeling those relationships for the entire school district. And as I hope I expressed in the interview process, that relationships are critically important, and the way that we work together is not to be underestimated, and the positive relationships are really going to help us to move the work going forward. And relationships really are at the heart of any successful organization. So we had a little mini retreat. It was just our leadership team and at central office, we call it the COLT team, Central Office Leadership Team. So I'm getting used to some of the acronyms here in Dartmouth. I like that one. That one's easy for me. It rolls right off the tongue. But what we did was really worked on establishing norms for the way that we're going to work together. And it really gave us an opportunity to get to know each other better. And so I'm looking forward to putting some of these processes and things in place for our August meeting with our DLT team. And Katie Ross and I were meeting on that today, and we have practically a full day planned on, tomorrow planned on focusing on that work. As I told you when I emailed you on Friday, I attended the new superintendent induction program and the MASS conference this past week, both really rewarding. Hard to be out of a district when you're brand new in a district, but at the same time, I think really well worth it. At the new superintendent's induction program, I was able to meet with all the new superintendents across the state. There are 35 of them, so that's a pretty, I think, large number compared to what they usually have. But I thought it was rewarding in that I got to connect with so many of them, and a few are local, so that's going to be truly helpful. I was also able to spend time with my new superintendent coach. Her name is Maureen LaCroix, Dr. Maureen LaCroix, who was a superintendent in Bedford, and she will be joining us at our next school committee meeting to introduce herself to you. I think that for me, I've said the stars have aligned, because she is going to be just the perfect coach for me based on the initial interactions I've had with her. A few highlights from the rest of the conference. Katie Paveo, I'm practicing Katie's name too. Katie Paveo was able to join me, and I'm appreciative of her time. It's like having a learning partner with you, and that's really important when you go to conferences, to have somebody partner with you so that you can think about some of the presentations and some of the content that you're learning, and be able to have conversations about how it can connect to the work back in your own district. There were some incredibly inspirational speakers that really lifted us, and then there was other work that we felt, oh my goodness, we have so much work to do in this area. So it's a nice balance of pick you up and then bring you back down to earth, which is really nice. But at the same time, it was practical, hands-on information that I think is important for the district, and what's going on in both at the state level and nationally in education, and how we need to bring that back to our school district and interpret it with our school committee and with our school community. Finally, I want to say Mr. Kiley can't be replaced. You talked about him earlier. He has been amazing. He has truly supported me through this process, through onboarding, and I've just been incredibly impressed by his professionalism, his integrity, and his commitment to the students and the faculty and the community of Dartmouth. He is really a gem, so I am happy to share that with him, and I'm sure I've said that to him many times. And I know you know this. He's the best of the best. And when I say that with all sincerity. He's the Assistant Superintendent of Operations and Finance, and has a focus on what's best for kids. That is really a rare combination. You know, sometimes you hear people say that that's the unicorn, and it truly is. I've had very little experience with finance people who get what's right for kids too. So I'm excited about that. And at the same time, he has some large projects going on. I was with John. I met John at the DeMello School. John's last name Bernard, and he's wonderful. He took me around the DeMello to show me some of the little projects, big projects, because they're not little, that are going on. And I looked at one project and I said, oh my goodness, this is a mess. He said, no, it's not. This is going to be fine. So I appreciated his calm demeanor because he had the vision to see through what that project's going to look like when it's done. And it's things that I'm really interested in, like grease traps, which are incredibly important, I learned today. So this is my learning curve, but he did explain it in a way that I could understand what he meant, so I walked away with some new knowledge today. But other things that are going on, they're out there painting. You have a very small crew doing a whole lot of work. Some of what Mr. Kiley left for me to share with you is the flooring replacement and at the middle school and the Quinn school, the freezer replacement at the DeMello, which is what I saw, which is quite a project. If you want to see something that looks like a mess, but someday is going to look wonderful, go and take a stop by there before they fix it. And the grease trap replacement. So I got to see that in person, and I don't regret that experience, because now I can speak to what a grease trap is and why it's incredibly important. Again, the kitchen and cafeteria improvements in several of your buildings. I mentioned the painting, and I've heard you talk in the past about the renovations that are happening for the Atlas program space. Jim also wanted to mention that the fiscal year end, he really did wrap it up in the last few days, and he felt, I think, some relief as he went off for his 2-week vacation, and I can promise you he is not watching. He made that very clear. He has his out of office reply on, and I don't even know if he'll go back and watch. But he wanted you to know that we were able to prepay some special education tuition, which was a first priority for him and for the current budget, going into the current budget. But he did, and these are his words, but important for me to repeat, following that we will have very little or no funds remaining, but we'll be reporting back to the committee at future school committee meetings. And so I think that just about wraps up what I have to say, other than I do have a couple of things that I'm hoping to add to our agenda on some of the items that are going on across the state with MASS around legislation, in particular related to some of our special education costs, because I got a few emails right before I left for this meeting from Mary Bork, who is the co-president of MASS, Mass Association for School Superintendents, and they're really hard at work to address some of the fiscal issues facing communities like Dartmouth around the rising special education costs. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I testified on another bill the other day, and there's the Joint Committee was quite receptive to understanding the depth and breadth of the need for that. So thank you for bringing that up. Any comments before we move on? Thank you for all of that. That was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for your report.
Thank
That
you.
was great.
Of course, my screen goes black just as I. Wow, that is really informative. Thank you. And so, so for old business, what we have on here, it brought back to us, is the memo regarding the updated charge for the town's Indigenous People and History and Culture Committee. And so in your packet is that memorandum. I guess it has been updated, and it's showing the strikes where the changes were made and the edits were made. And I don't know if anyone has any comments. I quickly read through, but I'm trying to remember where we were when we sent it back in May. Dr. Jenkins?
So I had raised some issues related to this on the charge, and I think, particularly about a committee of non-school committee members or appointments providing any sort of input on instruction, right? That's the purview of the schools, and I was not comfortable with it. That's been changed, so I'm pretty good with that. I still have concerns about membership, and I feel like we're trying to squish a square peg into a round hole here. And some people in this community may die of shock, but I have had several really nice conversations with Jacob Ventura about this. And he and I share concerns about the structure of this committee. I understand that the town charter requires voting members to be town members. At the same point in time, we are creating a committee about Indigenous people, and we are saying that our Indigenous neighbors are going to be non-voting members of that committee. And I have a real problem with that. That's not a partnership, right? And so the work here that's being proposed is good, in my opinion, but I feel like we should take the time to build a structure that's right, whether it requires maybe it requires an amendment to the charter. Maybe it requires a petition to state government for, setting this up. But I think we ought to do it right in full partnership with our tribal neighbors, not with them as non-voting members of a committee that, right, if we look at what's proposed, there's no guarantee now that anyone is from an Indigenous tribe, right? It's encouraged, but it's not required. I guess the last thing I would say on that is there's something different than, somebody sort of reaching out. I'll paraphrase, Jacob on that. He's like, there's one thing about someone reaching out to me to get my thoughts. That's not the same thing as reaching out to the tribe to get the tribe's position on the things that this is doing, right? Because the tribe is an official government entity. And so I appreciate the effort that's going on here, but I feel like I'd rather take the time to do this right, the way that it should be, instead of sort of just moving this forward in a way that doesn't allow an appropriate seat at the table for our Indigenous neighbors.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I will certainly agree that, I understand the town charter and the voting capacity of being voting members of the committee. But I do agree with Shannon that we really should be looking and extending an opportunity out to the tribes in this area. And I don't know what we would have to do to get them to be voting members or how this would work. But I think if we're going to have if we're going to form a committee, entitled, if I scroll up to the top of it here, Indigenous People History and Culture Committee, that there certainly should be Indigenous people. That's take it for what it's worth.
And I would say, so we would look to include the tribal input. So if an individual joins the committee, they would be representing the tribe, not their individual opinions on the subjects.
So there's
Do
a
you think
conflict
that's-
between representation and the town charter, right? And the town charter requires all members of Dartmouth committees to be Dartmouth residents. That's not the same as the tribe selecting an official representative to represent the position of the tribe, right? There's people on the tribe on various sides of the issues, and so whoever's randomly selected does not, or appointed by us or whomever, doesn't necessarily represent the official position of the tribe. And so to me, again, to Chris's point, this is about, right, Indigenous culture and history, yet we're relegating our Indigenous neighbors to non-voting members of the committee. And that just doesn't sit right with me. So I think rather than trying to ram this through and the structure that we have, we need to take a step back and say, what would a committee look like in an ideal form? And what do we need to do to make that happen, to have our Indigenous neighbors and partners be full participatory members of this committee? So I think maybe we need to take a step back and figure out what it is that we want, and then figure out how to make what we want. Because I'm not sure this is what, at least in my opinion, this is what we want. Everyone else can disagree with me, though. I'm only one vote.
I agree with you 100%. My question is, though, now how does the committee feel, and how should we send this back And John, I don't know if you had anything
No,
to
no,
share.
I mean, I agree with, my committee members here. I mean, per the charter, all voting members shall be residents of the town of Dartmouth. I think you literally start tying your hands, when you get into, when you look at like 4, 5, 6, 7 type of deal for, who can be appointed, that type of deal, is, who we could appoint here, who's gonna represent from the town administrator, that, you gotta make sure that all these people living in the town, I mean, I think you're hand strapping yourself here type of deal. And I agree with Shannon's comment that, you're sitting here and you're saying the Indigenous people are not gonna be voting members. Well, we're trying to bring them into the fray here, and I think they need to be, so. That's somewhere down the line, I just think maybe the select board's gonna take another look at this, I don't know. That's, probably what needs to happen.
Dr. Jenkins?
Yeah, I feel like this has also been a weird process whereby it's a joint committee, but it's like, it's a game of operator, right? Like the select board puts something together, then it comes to us, and then we say, here are the issues, right? It goes back to them. I mean, maybe we need to have a conversation with them, or, maybe we just need to take a step back and think about what it is that we really truly want. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they need to take another stab at it.
They're
that's
gonna- I
what
think they have
Mr.
to take
Noon
another
said. I
stab
think that's
at it.
right.
in my only other question, when you look at the membership, okay, again, go to 6 and 7, those are community members, one appointed by the select board, one appointed by us for a 3-year term. It says nothing, 1 through 5, the select board, school committee, historical, it doesn't say how long those terms are for, unless I'm missing something. It says 7 members, but, 1 through 5 do not have a time on the, for the appointment. So, you come to, for discussion purposes, you come to this time next year. Now, do those 5 people have to be reappointed, or are they still good? Because there's nothing in this charge that says how long they have to be.
You're stuck there forever if you're
Yeah.
appointed.
Yeah.
You can never, ever step down.
Yeah. Charlie on the MTA, never return,
Yeah.
Well, I think we send it back to the select board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they want to put it on one of their agendas, we don't, I don't see a joint meeting coming up anytime soon, so maybe
Until October
between the 5 of us, 2 of us could attend to share our thoughts of
Yep.
where we discussed
Yeah.
Yeah.
this afternoon.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I can do that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anything
They
else
let me
on
know
there?
when they're gonna put it on their agenda.
Yeah. So do you want a motion to send this back, or with just the consensus, we're gonna send it back?
I think
I
just,
think that's what we did the last time. just-
Consensus.
Yeah,
Consensus,
yeah.
consensus.
Yeah.
That's
we want to
fine.
do it right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, yeah,
We
thank you for
wanna do it
bringing that
right,
up.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Thank you. And I think at this point, maybe I'll turn it over to
No,
I think
wait.
Dr. Sabum. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, we
No,
going to
good.
school choice?
You got new business.
Yes, under new
Okay.
business, I was going to
Okay.
turn over,
Okay.
Just making sure we don't miss that.
yeah,
Say what?
yes, authorization of the use of school choice funds.
Yes, and so I think in your packet, I know that Kate had sent you a copy of the request from Mr. Carley regarding authorization of use of school choice funds. And I know that that the town's decision not to support the $200,000 annual technology replacement article in June, they decided not to fund that item, and because of that, we need to ask the school committee to approve $75,000 to purchase technology hardware to support our one-to-one computers, and that is for our incoming freshmen. Mr. Galashaw's here, and if you have any questions regarding that purchase, he's happy to jump in and answer them, and I have some information as well.
I'll assume, Mr. Galashaw, that this is for the purchase or the lease of Chromebooks for our incoming freshmen?
It's for the new freshman class, the ones coming from 8th grade up. We usually get on a life cycle replacement for the 5th graders and the 9th graders, but given this shifting of money and what happened, we kind of shuffled a little bit for the 5th graders, but we really do need the 9th graders for their career in the high school. It's the purchase.
And I know you know this, but I feel like if Mr. Kiley were here, he would say that you know that he is concerned about dipping into school choice funds to use toward purchases that are going to be ongoing and that aren't necessarily it's not necessarily money that we're going to be able to depend on. Currently, we have 111 students enrolled in school choice, and we've registered, at this point in time, we've registered another 39. And so we have to think about that moving
Sure.
forward.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, they didn't give us the money. I think this is, what we need to do in order to support our students. So I would certainly make a motion to approve the additional use of school choice, funds in the amount of $75,000 to purchase technology hardware to support one-to-one computing.
Second.
Any other discussion about this? Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, just, kind of on that same subject and in all seriousness, just a thank you to, because we haven't met since then, but a thank you to town meeting for supporting our budget with the amendment we made, that was made and such to at least kind of bring us up a little bit.
Yeah.
And understand if my memory's any good, there's 75 here, and there's 50 that we took for supplies back when we were doing the budget and the adjustments we had to make. So, fortunately, we have it to use, but it's, you're using, this money for one-time purchases, type of deal. So it's, not a good use, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Dr. Jenkins?
So I'll just follow up to Mr. Nunes. I also want to say thank you to Mr. Nunes for putting together those motions and sort of leading the effort at town meeting. Thank you.
My pleasure. It was fun. Especially when they tried to dip into the kindergarten. That was fun. I'm sorry.
Right.
My,
Yeah. Good job. Thank you. Anyone else? No, it's not a good use, but certainly necessary. given the
necessary.
fact,
Thank God we've got it.
So.
Yeah.
We can't go back in time. We know that our students have to have access to technology just as they had access to textbooks in the past. So times have changed, and the way our students access content is very different today than it was when, at least when I'll speak for myself, when I was in school.
Great. So we have a motion. We have a second. We had some nice discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously to authorize the expenditure of school choice funds in the amount of up to $75,000 for purchase technology hardware to support the incoming freshmen in their learning. So thank you.
Thank you.
So next on our new business, we have superintendent's update, but I don't know if there's anything else additional that you wanted to talk about. I know I don't know if this is offline or online, perhaps having a retreat or a working group for the school
I think
committee?
that's important to bring that up, that we have discussed individually with school committee members that we do want to identify some dates that work for all of us to participate in a school committee retreat, probably more for me than you. Bess and I are new on the school in this role, so we could use some support from all of you, the veterans on the school committee.
Should we, how would we coordinate that? Does anyone have any particular preference or weeks that
I think if you just emailed Kate some dates, she'd
Okay.
be happy to coordinate our dates for
Okay.
us, and then we can figure out a location. We had talked today, Shannon and I mentioned, Dr. Jenkins and I mentioned, maybe looking at the library.
And is it traditionally one day of the week in particular?
I'm not sure traditionally what it is here in Dartmouth.
We've normally, what we've normally done is had it like at night at like, again, school's not, or if we do it like the beginning of September, once school has started, depending what everybody's schedule is. We've done it at like, 5 o'clock at night at Bush Street, just to,
And how many hours are we looking at?
I think we can
2 to
create.
3?
we can-
2 to 3, depending
I
on
would,
what pops up.
I would say 3 hours would
That
probably
type
do
of
it.
deal,
Yeah.
depending,
I vaguely remember having one on a Saturday morning.
I was
We
I
did
was
one-
going
we
to
did
say
one-
Saturday, but I didn't want to be the one to say it
we did,
first.
we did have one on Saturday, a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because, well, I mean, sometimes a Saturday can relieve you of some of the other
Yeah.
responsibilities you might be concerned about.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so we'll email some dates and firm up, propose a date and time for that.
Thank you.
I
And
guess
I
what
look
would be
forward to
helpful
that.
is at least, I'll be looking at August to September, just when I'm throwing out.
I'm thinking August.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm thinking August. Yeah,
I think before school starts would make sense.
yeah.
Yes, I think before our September meeting.
sounds good.
Yep, I agree.
Great, excellent, great. I actually don't have anything to report, other than just anecdotally, I dropped my daughter off at volleyball camp this morning and picked her up at noon, and the kiddos were just so excited and happy and giggly, and just with their little backpacks on. It was really great to see all of the students who were in the summer programs, and of course the kids that were doing the camp were sweaty and exhausted, and I'll speak for my daughter, hungry and thirsty afterwards. So, so it looked like they had a lot of fun. But other than that, I don't know if anyone on the committee has anything to add.
You knew why they were tired. They weren't bored.
Oh, right, exactly. Yeah, literally dripping sweaty from the volleyball anyway.
That's
but
it, yeah.
Not the student, not the extended year students. Anyone else on the committee have anything to update?
Madam
Mr.
Chair, I
Nance?
just have one thing, and, as usual, the Standard Times over the past few weeks has started, when they have room and whatever, just started posting their fall championships teams that they normally put together for winter and spring sports. So we've had a number of Dartmouth students in there already, so that's good to see.
Excellent. Anyone else?
That's it.
No, I just want to, I think, just reiterate that there are some great things going on here this summer, and if you have a chance to go and take a peek at what's going on here, I think it would be worth your while, because the kids really are happy, and you have a lot of staff here working through the summer, so that just demonstrates their commitment to your community.
Excellent. So I guess if no one else has anything to add, we can, we're meeting next on August 21st, right, at 5 o'clock. That's our next, I keep looking at Mr. Nunes with, you're like the resident, a shaking of the head or, nodding. So we meet again August 21st. We're going to email Kate some dates and times that work for us, come to consensus on a retreat time, which will be a great time to talk about the year to come, and relationship building as well, all of that good stuff. So I would entertain a motion. Oh,
And just
go ahead, Mr. Nunes.
that meeting, that band camp is going on that week. That'll be the kids' supper hour, but there'll be a lot of activity.
Oh,
in
on the
school.
21st?
On the 21st,
Oh,
just
good.
so.
Good, it'll kind
everybody-
of set the
when you-
tone.
When you see, when people start pulling up, there's a lot of cars.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Huh?
Great.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Meeting
Enjoy
adjourned.
your summer, everybody.
And I apologize for being late.
Meeting. Okay.
Thank you.